Good morning from Midtown Manhattan. It is a Saturday morning, so it's not very busy. And we're going to do a little walking around. We just got in across the Atlantic Ocean, transatlantic, and have about 5.5 hours to spend doing what we want in town. I picked up something from an Amazon locker. That was convenient at a D'Agostino's. And now I'm going to kind of retrace a few of the steps of my youth. It's unusual to see an E-Type Jag parked on 57th Street, even if it is a Saturday morning. So we're on 57th Street between 8th and 9th Avenues, where as boys we used to walk up to go to the D'Agostino's grocery store, and it's one of those things that I remembered, that at the building directly across the street here was the home of the composer Bela Bartok in the last years of his life. This building with the Gothic archways on it, and a little bit older construction and nicer details than those which surround it. I don't think Bartok would be that amused that there was a smoke and toke, probably a marijuana dispensary here in the new New York City in his former home. The tower that has the big antenna on it with the star used to say M-O-N-Y, and it had the time and the temperature on it, and we could see it from our building, which is behind these buildings, as our rooms were in the back of our building. So an interesting landmark that's still here. The bank was called at the time Money without the E. It was M-O-N-Y. So the things you remember. But we're getting closer, just crossing Broadway on 57th. Evidently there's something going on today here. We're going to head down to 58 and look at some of the new buildings that have popped up prior to getting to St. Thomas Choir School. And then we're going to walk, as the boys walk, probably to this day, between the choir school and the church, which is a cut through the mid-50s on the west side of Manhattan. In one or another of these buildings here, there had been car showrooms at the turn of the century. This was kind of the original motor mile for New York City. The Packard dealerships and Cadillac in the very early days of the automobile. New York City Marathon. That makes lots of sense. Marathons today. West 58th is becoming unrecognizable if you lived here 30 years ago. This neo-art deco tower that's gone up with park views looks from the street a lot older than it is. But that wasn't there before. There was a apartment building, gray brick, very ugly apartment building, and I want to say there was a lower building that had a parking garage on this side, where these very tall skyscrapers are, were nothing but low houses. And then there was another rather ugly mid-rise building. So the only buildings left on this block from roughly 40 years ago, the firehouse and the Unity Church, or whatever it is, and the small building that has the piano store in it to this day, and then of course the mid-rise, high-rise condominium building across the street. Where this entranceway is here to 220 Central Park South was about where we used to park. There was an underground parking deck there that was a little bit cheaper than that one there. And we come up on the back side of the art school, which they can't touch, and St. Thomas Choir School, built in 1987. when the choir school moved from 55th Street to this location, which had been a ABC television studio. They did the $25,000 Pyramid at this location and some other game shows. So right when this building was brand new, this building was my home for a number of years. And the view of those apartments across the way are ingrained in my memory. Unfortunately, we can't go in. It's not like the old days. So we memorialized Gordon Clem by starting at the door of the choir school and walking as we did as boys to the church. Typically we made the first turn right up here at 7th Ave and headed down 57th, but sometimes 56th, and then down to 6th Avenue and most of the way across to 53rd, where we went in the side door of St. Thomas Fifth Avenue. And this corner really hasn't changed. I think that's always been a market or a deli there. Unfortunately, it does look like the Irish pub finally succumbed probably during COVID and is now a pizzeria. That's a real shame. Oh no, they moved one over, PJ Carney's. They're still here. I think they used to be there and they're now here. When Jerry Hancock passed away, our choir director, we had quite the evening at PJ Carney's the night before we had to process at the church as alumni, and yeah, it was memorable. Carnegie Hall is wrapped, evidently undergoing some restoration. But really all the buildings on this corner and immediately in this area are the same ones. And we're going to cross 7th Avenue at 57th Street. And it looks like we have a clear shot, so let's go. The city's closing down for the marathon, so we've got almost a pedestrian city here in Manhattan. Perfect. So our next turn as boys would be alongside of Carnegie Hall. And of course they're still open for business. They're just restoring the exterior of the building. Across this street here, one of these giant high-rise towers, the big glass tower, used to be just 5- and 6-story walk-up, like big brownstones. And in the basement of one of them was an Italian restaurant called Fontana di Trevi that I believe was the inspiration for Billy Joel's song, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. They moved to New Jersey, really not the same. But that was there, along with, I remember, an umbrella shop. The Russian Tea Room, almost as much of an institution as Carnegie Hall. When we were boys, the Metropolitan Tower was just constructed, and in this basement, or in this first floor area where the Hilton Club is now, there was a Yamaha electronic piano keyboard store, and we used to go in on Friday afternoons, and I think we were impressing people by playing the keyboards, but we did have a lot of fun, and they let us do it. I'm not quite sure what's being built across this street here, other than just obviously new buildings. I don't really remember what was there, but they're certainly hard at it. Actually, what it was a Baptist church and a roughly 15-story high-rise, and it may be that is the original building that has been that they've just torn the entire facade off of and have modernized, but it looks pretty extreme. So it's a shame. It was another pretty building along the stretch of 57th Street that's now gone. There was another Mozart building through here that was also very pretty, very similar to these, and it's difficult to tell which one that was. It's been a long time. But when you walk by these structures every single day, or just about, you know, they become a little bit implanted in your memory. Not unlike Steinway Hall. And unfortunately, Steinway's showroom isn't in, to the best of my knowledge, is no longer in Steinway Hall. They moved to Madison Avenue. But it used to be that they had a 2-story showroom in the original Steinway Hall building, and there were music-related businesses in that building as well. Their logo is still on the front window. I spent a lot of time in Steinway Hall as well as a boy playing, and I knew a number of people that worked there. And we're coming down to 6th Avenue. It's a lot of work going on here with all the scaffolding here, so sorry for the poor light. So it's 6th Avenue and 57th Street. So we're now on 6th Avenue, and evidently this is the path of the New York City Marathon. And we have people walking the New York City Marathon, it looks like. See how difficult it is to get across. West 56th is closed. That doesn't impact us so far. And just because we would have crossed almost anywhere along 6th Avenue to the south or the east side of the street, we'll just cross here at 56th. Although some boys of my era will be sorry that I passed before we got to the Astro Diner. The Astro Diner has been there for a very long time, and around that corner is the site of the choir school from 1919 until 1987, and various different buildings that occupied that spot. Today there's just a high-rise office tower on it. But the Astro Diner never really smelled that good when we walked by it. It was always kind of an odd smell. Klein Supermarket, and there was a Lampston's at the corner of that gray building there. Other places where we as boys went on Friday afternoons to get stuff to get us through our Friday night movie nights. The line of the original choir school visible in the City Center Opera building, where the red wall covering is just up there, and the office tower behind it. But the City Center was next to the original choir school building. So we're now at 6th Avenue and 54th Streets, the site of the New York Hilton, built for the New York World's Fair in 1963 and 4. Of course, the World's Fair was 1964. It used to be where cars pulled in, where those storefronts are. The inside of that lobby's changed a lot in the last 20 or so years. And 6th Avenue is blocked off just down there. It's very strange to see 6th Avenue free of traffic, even though traffic's usually very light on a Saturday. We're coming up to 53rd Street, the last turn. This building here was the headquarters of ABC Radio from the time it was built until maybe 20 years ago. And I believe that was the CBS building. So beyond ABC, there used to be a number of derelict and a little bit less derelict brownstones that were not in the best of condition, and always had, interestingly, a collection of guys selling African art, masks and things of that nature, on the steps of the brownstones. And some of these brownstones sat in these locations here where the 53 West 53rd building for the Museum of Modern Art now stands. And kind of a shame that all that was like that for so long, but it's also sort of a shame that the brownstones themselves were lost and not one of them incorporated into the new MoMA. So this complex is very impressive today. When we were boys, this building was brand new. It had one of the MoMA stores in it, and the Museum Tower condominiums, and of course the original 1939 Museum of Modern Art building, and the store building right next to it. But none of this, all of this was those old brownstone buildings, those old brownstone houses, from the ABC building to the Museum Tower. Best I can recall. And we're now half a block from 53rd Street, where this tower is today. Very tall tower. Was New York City Public Library Donnell branch, and we used to get our books there. And there's still a very small Donnell library in the first or second floor of this building. An interesting tidbit: when we passed the doorman as boys at the Museum Tower, we always used to give him a high five. A few of you will remember that. And the church is just ahead. This is the original Museum of Modern Art building from 1939. Been remodeled a few times, so it's not the way it was. now at St. Thomas Church, having just passed the last of the MoMA buildings. And we'll just do a quick walk around of the outside. As boys, this was our entrance here, the parish office, leading into the basement hallways. A number of years ago, they cleaned the exterior, so it used to be a lot grayer than this in the old days. Wow, and whatever was on that corner is gone there across Fifth Avenue. That's interesting. There's always change in this city. Kind of like the, what was the, I think the Tishman building, now the Citibank building, had triple red sixes at the top. It's for 666 Fifth Avenue. Right across, ironically, from St. Thomas. Beautiful neo-Gothic church. That's amazing. Big corner building on Fifth Avenue gone. I'm trying to remember whether that was Rolex. And we are at St. Thomas. We're back on our ship. This is not it. This is another ship in the cruise terminal here in New York. You're looking at New Jersey across the Hudson River. And back over to Midtown Manhattan. That tallest towers that you see there are on 58th and 57th Streets. New construction. We walked by the base of that one on 58 earlier. The Art Deco tower next to the very, very tall one there. A lot of changes in Manhattan since I was a boy, but we managed to get a lot of interesting footage and do a little walking while we were in Midtown. Had lunch and a couple of beers at Cassidy's, which is an Irish pub on 55th Street. Unfortunately, the Connolly's that was on 54th did not survive the COVID. However, they still have one, I believe, in the mid-40s. Some great late afternoon views of Midtown Manhattan from one of the upper decks of the Norwegian Getaway as we await our turn to back out and into the Hudson River as we came in this morning into Pier 88. A Disney ship on the other side has just departed. We're going to look down the West Side Highway and into downtown. We're going to be headed that way via the river here very shortly. A nice view of the sunset and the USS Intrepid next to us here in Pier 88. It's Saturday afternoon and we are about to back out just as the Disney ship in the distance did and head down the Hudson River and out into open ocean once again. We've come in here for just over 12 hours to let people off and people back on again and head back out. We're headed for the Eastern Caribbean. Back. Thanks for watching Travel with Chip. Please subscribe, share, appreciate all your support, and we're going to see you in just a few days down in the U.S. Virgin Islands on St. Thomas.